fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, bye-bye. I'll fly away. With just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away. Going to a home where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. Oh, when I die, hallelujah, bye-bye. I'll fly away. Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory. I'll fly away. I said when I die. Oh, when I die. Said when I die. There'll be no more crying, no more dying, no more sadness, only peace and gladness. When I die, hallelujah, bye-bye. I'll fly away. I'll fly away.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Celebration of Spirit. We're so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Kim and Paul, for that opening song. It's always amazing to hear y'all. Let's give them a round of applause. Welcome to Celebration of Spirit, and we're so grateful that you've joined us today. This is an exciting time to be alive, as Spirit is calling each of us to a higher vibration while we're here. Welcome to those joining us online, and of course, welcome to those of you who are here in person here in the sanctuary. We love to have you here and see your smiling faces, feel the energy of all the people that are in here. We appreciate you being part of our community. This community is created by you and for you. It is a place of love and inclusion. We operate in spiritual principle. As our love grows, we answer the call to help others to know themselves as divinity in skin. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome to you, and we really appreciate you being here. Come find one of us that have these yellow badges if you'd like to know more about us, and then if you'd like some assistance. Let's say our statement of inclusion that we say together. Celebration of Spirit is an all-denominational new thought community in unison. We are founded on principles that support the evolution of consciousness. We recognize that every human is an expression of God filled with divinity. Every gender, race, sexual identity is welcomed. Thank you so much. Some announcements that I'd like to do before we start. Before you silence your phones, we do ask you to silence your phones, but check in with us on Facebook. Let us know where you're getting your spiritual swagger. And the more that you can do that, the more we can get our word out there, and the more we can get people to come. So do that for us today. On 8/27, which is today, and next Sunday on 9/3, September 3rd, we will be having a grief and loss circle directly after services today and on September 3rd. This will be an opportunity to go deeper on the topic of death, grief, and loss. After service, we will have snacks in the back and drinks, so please get one of those and then head over to the designated table. If you'd like to support our Maui family, these are some organizations that are recommended by Chaplain Becca. Now, Chaplain Becca has done service here, and she's actually stationed, and she's living in Hawaii now. And so these organizations are making a difference in supporting our friends that have been devastated by the devastating fires in Maui. If you would like to help, please donate as your heart guides you to one of these foundations. And now we're going to have our opening prayer with James Lampasona, and we welcome him up here.
Good afternoon, everyone. So if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes, or you can keep them open. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath together. In and then out. Let's do that again. In and out. We are in a sacred space where community, friendship, and love is shared. Even though we are always in the presence of God, sometimes the stress of challenging circumstances cause us to doubt this powerful truth. We may forget in a difficult moment that God is never further away than my next thought. Even in life's darkest moments, the light of divine strength, love, and wisdom glows in our minds and hearts. Many people say, "Oh, I wish I had more faith. If I just had more faith, everything would be fine, I'm sure." That's akin to saying, "I wish I had more Christ within." Yet, you already have all of the Christ within that's possible to have. That's already complete. You just need to develop more awareness of that presence. The Christ within is complete, as is your faith. We already have 100% of the power of faith that's possible to have. It's already within us. You and I just need to develop more awareness of that power. So let's remember this afternoon, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Blessings.
I see because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. Eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches. I know he watches. I know he watches me. I see because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His light is on the sparrow, and I know he watches. I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know God watches. Oh, God watches me. He watches me, and I know he watches
Oh, I'm so excited. Isn't she amazing? Oh my God. Kim, we just adore you. Really, we do. Thank you. Thank you. And your hubby's not bad as well, you know. Thank you, Paul, so much. Appreciate you. Okay, I don't want to step on that. No, you're good. You're good. Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness, it's good to be here. And what are we talking about today? Oh my goodness, we are talking about, is there life after death? Whew. All right. I'm just picking all the tough topics to talk about this month. Well, this month we really wanted to kind of look at what our beliefs are around these things, because it drives us. And until we kind of undo it, we don't really have an idea of what's really pushing us to say and do and be the things that we are. So we're going to talk about this today. So I guess my first question is, does anybody struggle with the idea of death? Show of hands. Okay, look around. Keep your hands up. Look around, because you're not alone. This is why I do this. How many of you are slightly afraid of your beloved or your child or your significant person passing? Okay. And then when you think about yourself not being here anymore, dying, does it freak you out just a little bit? Yeah. You're not alone. And I ask you these personal questions because so often we live in our head and we think it's only going on in here. You know, and that's why we have spiritual community, because it reminds us, oh, I'm not alone. This is happening with everyone. We're just being honest about it. So I want to tell you that when I was a kid, I used to have panic attacks about dying. Anytime that I thought that I would die, massive panic attacks to the point where I would have to crash into a wall to stop the panic. So that's how bad it was. And I'm really happy to say that I don't have that anymore. So let's do the work. It's not a surprise that many of us struggle with the thought of dying. You know, we think there's such a finality, we place labels on it. So we're like, when someone's died, that's it. It's over. And then if someone we think has died before their time, then we have other labels. Like, they were so young. They still had their life ahead of them to live. How could this happen? And as a society, we really think that death is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And I'm here to tell you, it is not the worst thing that could ever happen. Death is not the end of us. Our soul lives on. Our soul is eternal. So I just kind of want to set that with you. You know, my grandmother, when I was young, she would tell me the stories about when she was young and into her teenage years. And she told me stories about when people died in the family. They usually died at home. And the family would then wash the body, dress the body, and then put that person out for people to view. And everyone would come over to their homes. There would be eating, there'd be drinking, there'd be laughter, there'd be tears, there'd be telling the stories, right? Telling the jokes. And then in about a day or two, the person would die. But what that did is there was a ritual around it to honor that person as well as give us closure to it. You see, death was a part of life then. Do you hear me? Death was a part of life. Everyone got that it's just the cycle of life. And then, about 8 years ago, my grandmother was 89 years old, and she was in hospice, dying. And no one in the family wanted to tell her that she was dying. And I'll just say this quick joke. We were telling her that, you know, she needs to go to hospice, and she's like, I don't want to go to hospice. Everybody dies who goes to hospice. You know, and it's because they didn't tell her. They wouldn't tell her. So I, of course, being the brave one, told her that she's dying, you know, and it was just a beautiful process of, she waited until everyone came in, you know, to say their last respects. But what I found really interesting was my grandmother was afraid of dying. At 89, she was afraid of dying. Why? Because death had become so separated from life, like most of us, right? Death is a very separate entity, like it's not part of our lives. And so when death happens, we're traumatized for the most part. We are so traumatized and devastated, and for the most part, we don't even know how to handle it, right? Because it's been so separated. And so, you know, it was just really heartbreaking to watch this woman who was so filled with faith, you know, struggle with releasing her body. But that's what happens when we separate this thing called death from our lives. Because what she forgot was that she's more than her body and her mind. And what we often forget is we are more than our body and our mind. We forget what our purpose is. We forget that our soul is actually the essence and truth of who we are. And our soul's mission really is to create experiences for our highest good. That's what it's here for. So we've been so conditioned as society to see success as good and failure as bad. And we'll do everything in our power to prevent ourselves from failing. And yet, I'm here to tell you, the deepest failures I've had has shifted my consciousness in magnificent ways. All right, so that's the reality. There's this book that I used years ago. It's called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. Has anybody here read it? Okay, two. Yeah. It's a real kooky little book. And I don't buy everything, but there are pearls of wisdom in there that it's worth the read, especially if you're trying to come to terms with someone who from the outside looks like their life was a failure, but it really wasn't. So this story, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, is written by Annie Kagan, and that was Billy's sister. You see, Billy was an addict. Such an addict that he also did time for drug dealing, and towards the last part of his life, he was homeless. And his sister had separated from him because she just couldn't try to save him another time. She knew that she would drown if she stayed in that. And so she had a lot of guilt from separating. So it's a wonderful story that talks about his life, death, and the afterlife. Now, for many of us, when we look at someone and we look at their lives, we'll judge them, right? That's a good life. They lived well. That's a crappy life. You know, what a waste of life. I've heard people say that, what a waste of life. And in this story, it becomes really clear that Billy's soul journey, this was his soul's journey for his highest good. Did you hear that? Wouldn't it be amazing if we started to look at each other from that perspective instead of the label and the judgment? Right? You're on your journey. Let's bless you. Maybe we could even have compassion for ourselves. How about that? On our journey when it doesn't look the way that we think it should look, right? So it was necessary for his soul's journey. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know what anybody's soul journey is. And I can be sure that most of us don't even know what our own soul journeys are, right? Until we become conscious. So I really recommend it if you are wanting to kind of look at life and death and those kind of things. I also used a book called The Conversations with God. Remember that from Donald Walsh. Neil Donald Walsh, there it is. And there's a quote that I want to share of his. And this came from a response from God about why do things happen. Each event and adventure is called to yourself by yourself in order that you might create and experience who you really are. All true masters know this. That is why mystic masters remain unperturbed in the face of the worst experiences of life, as we would define them. So this is not a green light to start blaming people for the things that are going on in their lives. Let's just be clear on that, right? That's not what this is. And I say that jokingly, but I have listened to people in New Thought spiritually malpractice on each other. You know, if you're ill, you cause that. If you've got financial difficulties, you don't have enough faith or you don't realize the truth of who you are. That's not what this is about. This is about releasing the judgments, knowing that whatever someone is going through, there is a gift for that soul in the experience. If you can hold on to that, that will make a huge difference in our lives. So yes, we know that all souls are creators. That's what we do. That's our mission. And yet, nothing is permanent. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. So it's really this kind of weird dance that we have to do in creating. You know, it's like we get the house, and then it's like all of a sudden we should go in stasis because we've got the house. No, things keep moving and changing. And so humans, we try to think that we can control the things that are going on in our lives. Sometimes we have the luxury of that illusion. But my friends, it's an illusion because everything changes, and most of the time we do not have control over it. The struggle becomes when we are in resistance to change, right? And we talk about in New Thought, what we resist persists, right? So what if we flip the script? What if we embrace impermanence? Embrace it as opposed to resist it. Another book that I use for this is called The 5 Invitations. And it's written by Frank, and I don't want to say the last name because I just think I'll brutalize it. But it's a wonderful book, again, about how do we deal with death and then kind of living fully. And here he says, when we embrace impermanence, a certain grace enters our lives. We can treasure experiences. We can feel deeply, all without clinging. We are free to savor life, to touch the texture of each passing moment completely, whether the moment is one of sadness or joy. When we understand on a deep level that impermanence is in the life of all things, we learn to tolerate change better. Did you see that? We learn to tolerate change better. We become more appreciative and resilient. Now, I don't know about you, but I think some of the changes that we've been experiencing, if they were happening 3 years ago, we would all be in a fetal position, right? But we're just really just dealing with it, dealing with life on life's terms. So what do I mean by that? 2 nights ago, we have a senior dog, Romeo. We got him in January to keep company with our other girl. And as you know, she passed in June, so he's on his own. So he normally wears a diaper to bed because he's a senior. And somehow 2 nights ago, he got his diaper off. Urine all over the bed. That's right. So 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, we're up, and it's like, you know, in the past, that would have made me break down and cry. Do you know? We did our things. Graham took him downstairs. I stripped the bed, get the laundry started, and we tag team with that. And I looked at that and I thought, I didn't yell at the dog. I said, bad. And he just strutted around like he was the best thing in the world. Like he did such a good thing. And then we had to camp out in one of the guest bedrooms, and he's like, a camp out, yes! And he's all there. And I think it's because I've just spent the last year losing one dog, 2 months ago losing a second dog, and now I'm seeing he's on his decline, And one of the things that I realized, with the first dog that was dying, Ziggy, was I was so angry. I was so angry with him. And I remember, talking to my therapist on the phone. I'm like, I love this little guy, and I'm just so angry with him all the time. And it was like, you're going through anticipatory grief. And it was like the magic phrase, because once I got that, it was almost like, oh, you poor baby, let me be present to what is going on now, as opposed to this fear of losing him when he's still here with us, right? So everything does end. Nothing is permanent. And how do we live? By being in the moment. By, with Z, I had a couple more months, and it was like, okay, here's an ice cream, and, all these goofy little things, right? But really being present to it and savoring it. So I'm suggesting that embracing permanence brings us true freedom. And that's where all the possibilities happen in that. So before you're like, oh my God, could this be a little bit more depressing? I want to tell you, the good news is that our souls live on. You know, our form may change, but the essence of who we are is immortal. We're always there. So that's the good news. Why are we here? Why do we choose to incarnate? And we really choose to incarnate to evolve. The soul's purpose is to evolve in consciousness. That's what it's here for. And the moment that the soul knows it cannot evolve any longer in our body, it releases the body. And no matter what the mind or the body thinks, it's releasing. Now, oftentimes the mind and the body have some resistance to that. Because when we're on this plane, we think the mind and the body rules us and is in charge. But it's not. The soul is in charge. So when it's time, there isn't really anything that can make the soul stay. With me? And the soul doesn't really think of this as a sad thing. The soul has really had to sacrifice to shrink into our bodies. Our souls are huge energies, you know, and it's had to really kind of be compact and less than in this physicality that we have. So according to Walsh, we talked about that the soul never dies, that we are eternal. Well, what happens to the body? It goes back. Where does it go back to? To the earth, right? Yeah. So death is the body is no longer functioning. The organs are no longer functioning. It's not growing. And if we are not growing, then what do? We die, yes. The body decays then. It's not necessary. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But I want to point this out, once again, from Conversations with God. You came into this life, let me try that again. You came into this life with nothing to learn. You have only to demonstrate what you already know. In the demonstration of it, will you function it out and create yourself anew through your experience? Thus do you justify life and give it purpose. Thus do you render it holy. I thought that was really profound when I read that. And it actually sparked a conversation with Graham and myself, because I always say we're here to learn, right? And he's like, but isn't that contradictory then, if you're saying that you're here to demonstrate what you already know, right? But we are dual. We have duality. We have our humanness and we have our divinity, you know? And when we reincarnate, we don't have all those memories. And if we do somehow come through with the memories, kind of like by the age of 8, 9, we don't remember it anymore, you know? And it's kind of like, how many of you have done like therapy or something like that? Okay. So most of us talk about our mom in therapy, yes? Can we just say that? Okay, good. So you're in therapy, you talk about your mom, you're like, oh, okay, I think I have an understanding. A couple of years later, you're in therapy, you come back, there's mom again, right? But it's different, isn't it? It's on a deeper level. It's on a deeper level of knowing. It doesn't have that kind of angst to it. So I think it's the same with this process, you know, that yes, we're here to demonstrate all that we are spiritually, but in our humanity, we really have to still figure out how. How do we do that? You know, like, I think I'm really powerful. Well, I've come to believe, let's go there. I've come to believe that I'm powerful. And there have been a couple of instances where I know that I've healed someone through touch. And I know that I've done some psychic work through touch. And yet still my humanity goes, oh, I don't have that gift. I wish I had that gift. Do you hear that? That's what we're dealing with. Our humanity versus our soul knowing. And that's the exciting dance that we do throughout this. All right, so I also wanted to kind of just touch on this real quickly, the different thoughts about death and what happens after through like some of the traditional faith structures. So when I talk about the Abrahamic faith, I'm talking about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and it's Abrahamic because they all come from Abraham's children, supposedly. So in that, they all believe there's a soul. That is our essence. They also believe that we'll be judged on our good deeds or not so good deeds. And they all believe that if you've done enough good deeds, you go where? Heaven. And if not, hell. Yes, that's correct. Good one. Yes. And to make matters a little bit more confusing, the Catholic Church in the 1600s created purgatory. What? What's purgatory? Well, purgatory is that place in the middle. You're not bad enough to go down, and you're not good enough to go up. So you're in this place of limbo. But the good thing is, your family can purchase your freedom from limbo. Yeah. Okay. So then let's look at Hinduism. Hinduism, they do believe that there is a divine part of us as well, and they call the soul Atman, A-T-M-A-N, and that there is, through the Atman, we're trying to connect with the universal soul known as Brahman. And then last, we have Buddhism. Did you know Buddhism does not recognize that we have a soul? No, they don't. That surprised me. What they do believe in is that through reincarnation, which is known as samsara, reincarnation, is that we can reach to a place, nirvana, enlightenment, no self, that we don't have to reincarnate anymore. That's the belief there. And they also have karma, meaning that good deeds get good deeds and bad deeds get bad deeds. With me? All right, so in traditional Christianity, there's some debate here. They all believe that there is a judgment, that somehow there's a judgment on your good deeds and your bad deeds, right? So in Judaism, Islam, Christianity, a lot of the major ones. The problem comes of when is judgment. Some people teach that judgment happens as soon as you're dead. You're lifted up and you go through that process, while others teach that it's not till Judgment Day. See how we connect all these pieces together? Judgment Day. It's not until Judgment Day when everyone is risen and everyone is judged, good or bad. All right. But do we believe that in New Thought? Thank you, Donald. I love how you said that loud and clear. No, we do not believe that. We believe that that idea of judgment really is a human construct. We believe God is love and that we return to love. That's it. God is love and we return to love. We return to oneness. So, there's also been a little bit of research behind that idea too that bolsters our idea of it, in that there have been quite a few people who have gone through the process of near-death experiences known as NDEs. I'm sure you guys have heard of that, right? And so they've done a lot of research where people express that they're going through either a tunnel or just darkness and then they go into the light. And when they're in the light, what happens? Angels greet them. What else happens? They just feel at peace. They feel love. What else? They see all of their family members who have gone on before them. And I'm saying including pets, because that's a thing there too. Right. So I know that I've shared a lot of information about death, about dying, about what happens after. But I also want to emphasize that in our humanity, it's really important that we give ourselves permission to grieve, because we're human. And in our humanity, when a beloved dies, it's a huge loss for us. And we must give ourselves permission to feel it. Grief is part of living. Did you hear that? Grief is part of living. And so ours is to be with it, to feel all the tears, to feel the sadness, and not be apologetic or hide out from people because we're feeling it. It's our humanity. So I just really want to make sure that you're aware of that, give yourself permission for it. And that was the reason that I wanted to do the grief circle afterwards, so that we can just kind of fine-tune that a little bit and get people to talk about the experiences that they're going through. All right, so this was not an intellectual talk, even though I know I gave you a lot of concepts. What the purpose of this is really to understand, I guess, the process of death, but also that it's part of life, you know, and that we don't have to keep it so separate from ourselves that it becomes such a traumatic event when death happens. Because guess what? We're all gonna die. We are all going to die. Now remember, I started off with, I used to have panic attacks about my own personal death. And when I went into seminary, that was probably the only main concern that I had, like, how am I going to be able to deal with this? And I did an internship as a hospice chaplain. And I have to tell you, it's the most beautiful and sacred thing to be present with someone as they're passing. You get to listen to family members who come to meet them at the end of their bed. They're talking to them, they're rising up to meet them, and there's just this glow on their face that happens at that moment. We are so much more than this. And it was like, when I went through that process, I was just like, what are you afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. We're just going home. We're just going back to oneness, you know? So I hope that didn't scare everyone away to never come back again. But our last talk on this series is going to be next week. You'll be like, phew. And next week we're going to be talking about Satan and hell. Do they exist? So come on up, my loves. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
mystery. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. No need to make a plan. Your heart will be your compass. Just lift your sails in faith and trust that you will arrive. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Float into the mystery. Float into the mystery. Float into the mystery. Float, 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 float.
All right, so if you are willing, we're going to meditate and we're going to do a little journeying, if that's all right with you. So I invite you to ground yourself here. Allow Mother Earth to support you. Allow your spine to be erect. Allow the energy to flow through you, because we're going to do a little traveling. If you're willing, you can close your eyes and move within. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale. And in that exhalation, I want you to move inside. And I want you to locate that part, that spark of your soul within you. See where it resides. For me, it's probably a couple inches above my belly button. For you, it may be somewhere else. But just take a moment to feel where the power of your soul resides. And then I want you to imagine that your soul kind of comes outside of your body, but it's tethered. It's tethered to an energy ring within your tummy. And allow your soul to expand. Allow it to become its true size. And then allow it to ascend as high as it chooses to, knowing it is tethered to your body. And in this moment, I invite you to See the soul of someone who may have passed on ahead of you. See their brilliance. Their form may look different, but you know who they are. And as you connect, listen. Listen to the love. Listen to the power. Listen to the words as they remind you you are not alone. I am always with you, my beloved. And in that moment, be present in the silence. And at the sound of my voice, take a moment to complete your conversation. Maybe say thank you for this moment. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the words. And then allow your soul to descend. Bring it back here now. And allow it to go within your body. Take a deep breath in and exhale. One more deep breath in and exhale. Feeling yourself fully integrated, fully present in this moment, in this time, in this sanctuary. Feel your feet on the ground. Maybe wiggle your butt a little bit. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Namaste, my friends. So now I get to do the closing announcements, and I'm going to ask Paul, would you do me a favor and flip that for me, my love? Thank you. I don't normally do the offering because it's very difficult for me to move from that space to this space, so please bear with me. So we're doing the offering. The offering is a time for you to give back to this spiritual place. It's an opportunity for you to have that circle of energy flowing. It's an opportunity for you to love up the community. And we're going to do it a little differently. My team had a serious heart-to-heart with me last week, I might add, that they really feel like it's important for us to pass the basket in the community. Because if you've given electronically or not, what you're able to do is infuse your energy of love and prosperity as the basket goes by, if you don't have anything to put in. So we're going to be doing that going forward. I also want to tell you that Graham and I tithe. We tithe because we believe it's a spiritual principle. Because we can't outgive God. And the more that we give, the more blessings that we have. And I can't tell you, like, I don't even know how we're paying all the things that we're paying, but we do. It gets done. Like, I know it's covered, so I balance once a month. That's it. And trust it's all taken care of. And so now it's like, every month I look for where can I bless someone? with this tithe? Who needs it? You know, and I listen to Spirit. So I'm just sharing that with you, and there are lots of different ways for you to be able to give. We have them all listed there, a lot of electronics, and of course here we'll take cash, check. And whatever you have, if you've done it electronically, then just imagine like that energy in your hand as we say this affirmation. In this moment, I am grateful for the abundance I have, grateful for the spiritual insights I receive today. As I give this financial blessing, I see it supporting this community and blessing my life in unlimited possibilities. And so it is. So I'll ask the ushers to come forward, please, and pass the basket. And while they're doing that, I'll continue talking. All right, so I did mention that next week we are talking about Satan and hell, and I think it's an important conversation to have, because I don't know about you, but I was Bible thumped from the time I was a little kid. You know, I better be good, otherwise I'm going to hell. So I think it's really important for us to have that discussion, and what we're going to do is actually kind of look back at when did this first come into our vocabulary, and what was happening at that time of when it occurred. So I think you'll enjoy that. What else is coming? Okay, so remember October 29th is supposed to be our field day here at Celebration of Service. So I've reached out to 2 organizations. The bottom one is Hope Alliance. Hope Alliance deals with domestic violence, sexual violence. So I've reached out to them to find out if they have a group project for us to do. I haven't heard back yet. And another one is the Salvation Army. They have kind of lots of events. This particular date, if you're willing, it's an hour orientation. So most organizations, you have an orientation that you go to before you're able to volunteer and do things. So I'm inviting you to, it's online, so you just have to use that link, or I don't have it on our Facebook page yet, do I? No, so I'll put that on this evening when I get home. So it's an hour, and I'm doing it October 18th, and there were like, I don't know, 50 slots open, so you know we could all do it together at that time, and that might give us 2 places that we can do some kind of field work. You're welcome. Access the Real You. Brian Kurtz is going to be here September 10th. He's going to be doing the talk, but he's also going to have a workshop, and that's 4:30 to 6:30 on that day, and he'll be talking about, you know, really how to get in touch with your divinity and how to separate the mind crazies that goes on with the truth of who and what we are. The event is $75, and you can register at Eventbrite. All right, have you noticed that we've got some cool little things on the corner, Celebration of Spirit? Are you seeing those? Well, Gail, who isn't here today, she's a marketing person, that's what she does for a living, and she created new logos for us. And I think they look really spiffy. So you'll be seeing that on all of our things. Our main one has like a fire burst in the middle, and it looks really cool. So I'm going to say happy birthday. Who's got a birthday in August? Yay! One Leo. Woo! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. So there's somebody else being quiet. Well, happy birthday. Okay. All right, good. If you would come forward, let's bless this basket. Okay, so for all of these gifts that we have received, we see them doing amazing things, not only to support this community, but to allow us to move outward to help those in need. And as people have given, so they will receive. Amen. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask Kim and Paul to come up to do their last song, and we're going to sing along with them. Kim was saying to me that she's thinking about doing a Christmas choir.
I would love to do a Christmas choir.
Will you say more about the Christmas choir?
Absolutely. Everyone is welcome.
Wait.
Oh, thank you. I would love for us to get together as a community and do a beautiful winter choir where we celebrate the joy and love of the season, and you don't have to feel like you're a soloist to be a part of the choir. If you love to sing or you love music, just being a part of a group is so good for your health. Actually, the vibrations of singing together actually is really good for your health. And so I really appreciate if you are interested, we'd love to have you. Okay, no one is turned away. Thank you, Paul, for the soundtrack.
I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me when a moment came that stopped me on a dime. I spent most of the next days looking at the x-rays, talking about the options, talking about sweet time. I asked her when it all sank in that this might really be the real end. How's it hit you when you get that kind of news? Man, I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I'd been denying. And is it someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. He said I was finally the husband, and most of the time I wasn't, and I became a friend would like to have. And all of a sudden going fishing wasn't such an imposition, and I went 3 times that year. I lost my dad. Well, I finally read the good book, and I took a good long hard look at what I'd do if I could do it all again. And then I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. Like tomorrow was a gift, God, eternity, think what to do with it. What could you do with it? What did I do with it? What would I do with it? Skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I watched an eagle as it was flying. worth a chance. Live like you were dying. To live like you were dying. To live like you were dying. To live like you were
It's always the quiet ones, isn't it? Paul Pellini, awesome. Woo! Who knew he had those kind of lungs? Oh my gosh. All right, so are you ready? Before we end, if you're going to go to the grief circle, it's the table closest to the sanctuary door out there. Get your snack, get your drink first, and then come over to where we're going to be, all right? Okay, together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I love you guys. Have a good week.
All right, we're going to fly away into this next week with the confidence that God is within us. All right. One glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. Fly away. Oh, when I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away. I'm going to a home